Welcome to The Business on Radio Verulam, the voice of your local business community.
Hello, it's Sunday, it's 8 p.m, and yes, welcome to The Business. I'm Victoria Scott with the show that's essential listening for the West Herts business community. And I'm really pleased to be introducing the show this evening, as we'll be focusing on one of my pet loves, niche businesses and niche marketing. And as we all know, we've been hearing a lot on the news and in the press that the recession is finally coming to an end. And there's no doubt that the mass of new businesses and the development of many small to medium-sized businesses have been at the centre of this growth in confidence. Now, loads of these smaller businesses are what we call niche. They have the people who've decided to specialise in one area or another, or in one type of service that they believe that they'll do very well on and concentrate on. So we're going to be looking at a lot of those sorts of businesses, these wonderful specialist businesses that are getting us out of recession. We've got interviews with Tulsi Parmer of AV82, who specialise in audio-visual equipment. We've got Melissa Kirby of 2x2 Holidays, who specialise in safari holidays, very, very interesting, and also Adam Collis of All Togs Duvet. We also got special guest in the studio, Anne Timpany of OnTap Plumbers. So we've got lots to talk about, lots of business news, but without further ado, let's say hi to Roma Bhowmick, who's in the studio with me. Hi, Roma.
Hello.
And Clare McAnulty, who's actually on the deck this evening.
Hi.
So, what have you been up to, Roma? What's caught your attention in the business news?
Well, speaking of niches, I went to a very interesting conference this week looking at some of the key issues and interesting, exciting changes business face today, both here and abroad. One area was to look at how the world of finance is changing, and in particular the use of digital wallets. If you've ever used PayPal or apps like Pingit, then you've got one. Have you ever used Pingit or PayPal?
Oh, I use PayPal. Yeah, I haven't used Pingit. That's a new one on me. But I've come across the expression digital wallet before.
Okay. Well, it's like a virtual wallet. So PayPal holds money for you, and when you need to pay out for things, you pay out of your PayPal account. And likewise, Pingit, you can actually pay by mobile text message effectively. So if you've got the mobile phone details of someone you want to pay, they set themselves up on Pingit, you're set up on Pingit, and you can pay each other. It kind of effectively works like that. It's all in the digital world. But what about new currencies that seem to be trading both in the UK and international stages? You might have heard of bitcoins. They've been in the news a lot. Listening to the news, they're a hot topic, especially since trading is rife. But is the bitcoin worth the risk for small business, was the question on the table. An interesting question, and despite the risks identified by the financial regulator, it also offers some valuable advantages over traditional currency, and thousands of retailers and other e-commerce businesses around the world are now using the Bitcoin. The sorts of benefits that people are quoting are, for example, the virtual currency is much cheaper to use than credit cards for small businesses looking for different ways to accept payments from customers. They are often free. The Bitcoin services are free, and even where there's a processing fee on transactions, typically they come in at around 1%, which is less than half what credit card providers charge. And also they can be a good solution for small businesses keen to expand their international sales, taking the issue of currency volatility out of the equation. That's notwithstanding the volatility of the Bitcoin itself. Trading overseas in this way also cuts the cost of commissions paid to electronic money transfer platforms such as PayPal. I saw a report on BBC recently, actually, and it seems that even universities are accepting fee payments in bitcoins. So, currency of the future for business? Don't know what you think.
Interesting. So, explain to me a little bit more how it works. You sort of buy bitcoins with real currency, and then they're held, and then you just use them as use it as a virtual bank. Yeah,
I mean, essentially, a bitcoin is an open source piece of code,
right.
And so what you do is you trade your currency for bitcoin equivalents. It gets converted into these unique codes,
right,
and they're then held in this virtual wallet, in inverted commas, and the idea is that you can trade anywhere that accepts bitcoins. The biggest issue traditionally has been that bitcoins have also been associated with the dark market or the dark web. Because the other thing about bitcoins is they're not trackable necessarily. So again, the regulators are very nervous about the whole thing.
So it could be a money laundering opportunity.
Potentially has been involved. There's been an argument that there has been involvement in money laundering.
And how is your money protected?
It's protected because of the unique coding. So allegedly this software that sits around it is extremely secure, and it's been around since 2009, which I hadn't realised.
No, I've certainly heard about it before. It's not the sort of thing that I've ever contemplated getting involved in. But I think if I was doing a lot of small deals across a lot of countries, it would seem to make a huge amount of sense.
Yeah, I tell you what was very interesting. In the session that I was sitting in on, they were talking about some of the issues they face around the world. And for example, an equivalent currency in the African continent, M-Pesa, just in Kenya alone, it's created a parallel marketplace. And in the last 2 years, 20 million people have started to trade using M-Pesa as a currency as opposed to the traditional currency. And it's sent the banking system into a bit of a turmoil, a bit of a tailspin. So very interesting.
Very interesting. Oh, well, that's all very technical and very interesting. I don't think we can go through the show this week without mentioning some sort of comment about Facebook's 10th birthday. And though it always sometimes feels as though Google's taking over the world. I was really delighted earlier last week to hear some real sense being talked by a global head of search engine optimization at a huge digital marketing company that will remain nameless. And he said, SEO gives your site a better chance of being found by customers. Now, we all know that. But, he said, the biggest mistake that many businesses make is concentrating on what the search engines are looking for, when the most important and most successful way of improving your rankings is to improve what you offer to your readers. And I was so delighted when I heard this and read this. Hurrah, it's back to the basics of marketing. So if you find out and understand what your customer wants and give it to them, then you're much more likely to succeed. So, you're talking about a brand new sort of currency, and this guy who's global head of SEO is actually talking about getting back to basics in terms of marketing. And online, I sort of reckon this means three things. First of all, within a website, it's having a structure to your site that carries the customer forward to where they want to go, which hopefully will coincide with where you want them to go as well. Second is that there's no doubt about the fact that if you've got content that attracts, enthuses, informs and entertains, then you'll keep them on the site longer, you'll get more references, and you're going to get more audience. And then finally, authority. If you are the best at what you're doing, and and the best shows, then it'll succeed. So you talked about something that's brand new, that's completely sort of turning around the face of finance, but this is going back to some really, really basics of marketing. And that was really, really something that I rather liked in this sort of very modern world. Do you, when you're sort of working with your clients, do you ever find those clients that sort of say, I need a new website because mine's not working?
Actually, I found it's not as bad as it used to be. And it's interesting that you say he was talking about going back to basics, because I think there's been a lot of conversations again about the value of things like word of mouth recommendation. And, as you rightly say, going back and thinking, well, what is it that draw people to you, and then thinking about how your existing website might be operating effectively for you. And I think blogs seem to be a lot more of an attraction for companies, as well as, of course, using things like Twitter and Facebook if it's appropriate, if they're business to consumer.
So lots to think about and lots to talk about. So we want to hear your views, so do get in touch with us. The studio number is 01727 839 926, or tweet us on @RVTheBusiness, and we'll be back with you after this short break.
Has your child outgrown day nursery? would you like them to attend a more structured environment with a wide range of interesting and challenging activities?
I like cooking stuff with Mrs. Federici.
Mount Carmel Kindergarten in Sandpit Lane is now offering extended sessions, so even if you work, your child can enjoy an outstanding environment that prepares them for school and is somewhere they will want to go to every day.
I like playing games. I love my teachers.
For more, see our website at mountcarmelkindergarten.co.uk. Mount Carmel Kindergarten, private education for little people.
Mount Carmel Kindergarten.
You're listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. We're the voice of the local business community on 92.6 FM and on radioverulam.com.
And yes, this is The Business, and we want this show to be about the business community. We want to know what you think and what you can share. So please get in touch if you have anything to add to the discussion this week, which is going to focus on niche businesses. So what are the niche businesses that are around and about? Well, there are hundreds of them around West Herts area. But first of all, let's hear from Adam Collis. Adam already runs a very successful IT business called Burbab, but he was so fed up that he wanted, with something that he wanted personally, that he decided to do something about it. So I'm here with Adam Collis, whose main business is Burbab IT, but I also happen to know that he's got a very special niche business that he launched a couple of years ago. Adam, tell us about your niche business.
My secondary business is called All Tog Duvets, and that started a few years ago when I wanted to buy myself a new duvet, couldn't get the sort of TOG rating I wanted. So you go to John Lewis, for instance, and you can buy a summer, an autumn or a winter duvet, and those say, for instance, 4 TOG, 9 TOG or 13 TOG. And it got me thinking, well, why can't I have a 7 TOG? Why can't I have an 8 TOG? Why can't I have a 2 TOG? And this whole idea of I want a choice drove me to see, well, why can't I run my own business doing that? And building websites as I do, I build e-commerce websites, and I thought, well, here's an idea for me to build my own small business selling a niche product via the internet, and that's how the whole thing started.
I mean, obviously you wanted to find yourself a duvet. Did you then find somebody that could do this for you, and you liked it so much that you decided other people would like it?
Yes, one of the things in the early days, that probably the hardest thing with setting up the business was finding the right manufacturer, and that took quite a while. And I especially wanted a manufacturer based in the UK, so that you're selling a UK product to people in the UK, but you needed to find somebody who was happy to start with a small company like myself, and also give you this choice of products to sell.
So how did you go about trying to find that supplier?
A lot of internet searching, a lot of phone calls, and just asking people questions about, how do you do this, how do you do that, and a bit of detective work really. And I eventually found a very good factory up in Scotland, based near Edinburgh, and went up to see them to see what they could do.
So you built the website. Mm-hmm. Then how did you get people to come along and find the website?
Basically through things like website marketing. So having worked in the industry for a while now, I know how to market on the internet. I did think some of it would be very, very easy, and soon discovered it wasn't as easy as I wanted. For instance, duvets, as you imagine, loads and loads of people sell duvets, and so the competition on the internet is huge, and that's one of the beauties of being a niche product. You can target niche areas through the internet marketing, whilst you're competing against the big boys for the general purpose duvets. For instance, one of the products I do is a partner duvet. Very few people do that, so marketing through the internet was quite successful on that.
Because you could pick specific keywords that were unique to your business that other people that were just generally trying to find a general duvet just wouldn't have thought to search against.
Yes, that's right, exactly that.
Now, one of the things that people comment on when they're when they're talking about marketing and talking about niches is, oh, but if you don't actually try and get everybody, you won't get as many sales. What made you decide that you've got to go for a much smaller niche in your marketing as well as in your product? Why wouldn't you just try and have more products?
I think as a new startup, sort of the idea of trying to compete with everyone selling duvets, it's almost a non-starter. Everyone sells them. Argos, Marks and Spencer's, John Lewis, 1,000,001 people are selling that. So trying to be a big fish in a big pond was quite difficult. But if you could be a big fish in a small pond, as in aiming for niche, then that was a lot easier to start up.
And did you find that people were looking for special duvets like you had been?
No, that was a bit of a surprise. Sort of my idea of just doing different tog duvets because I wanted it, that surprisingly didn't take off as well as I thought. One of the other products which has proved more successful is the partner duvet, and this is where one duvet has two different halves. So, say a husband and wife, the wife wants a really nice, thick, warm duvet, and the husband wants a thinner one because he doesn't want this fat duvet keeping him too hot.
That sounds all very familiar in my household. So they're called partner duvets?
Yes, yes.
And is that something that you do exclusively, or do you know? I would never have thought to search on the internet for a partner duvet. Is that a phrase that you've coined?
No, I'm not the only one doing it. There are a few people, but again, this is one of the niches that not many people do. This is one of the problems I've faced, in that people don't know what a partner duvet is. If they know what a partner duvet is, they're likely to find me and hopefully buy something. But part of my challenge, if you like, is making sure people realise that this product is out there. So
if people aren't searching for partner duvet, I'm going to sort of make a suggestion. I'm sure you've looked at it. But, I mean, one of the great ways of getting phrases out there is PR. Is PR something that you've considered? Because if you can get a piece that sort of talks about the concept of partner duvets, then that can get into the vernacular quite successfully.
Yes, I think marketing's probably my weak spot. PR is something I've not thought a lot about. I do want to sort of put more effort into the business in 2014. To date, trying to run two businesses doesn't always work because there are always demands from one business that drag you away from the other one. So that is a challenge I face constantly.
If you were to start all over again with all tog duvets, what would you do differently?
Possibly not a lot. I think being a little bit more rigid about how much time I put in each week, that would probably help, and that's what I'm aiming to do this year. So I'll put aside, say, an hour every morning to work on one business and then work on the main business in the rest of the time.
So that's two. That was my second question. What are you going to do differently in 2014? You're just going to allocate some more solid time to the All Togs business that you haven't possibly done this year.
Yes, I think that's what I'm going to do, and part of that will be trying to think of what I should be doing. Should I be doing more social media work? Should I be doing PR? Should I be doing marketing? I've got one email to deal with where a magazine wants to publish an article on it. So yes, that will be time out of my working day, but that's what I've got to do.
OK. Well, thank you ever so much. It's wet and miserable and cold and everything. So anybody in the West Herts area that's looking to cosy up in a special duvet, how do they get in touch with you, Adam?
There is a free phone number, which is 0800 8799 269, or the website is www.alltogduvets.co.uk.
So, an interesting business, and all on the basis of a whim or a need to be cold or hot. What do you think of that, Roma?
It always amazes me how the simplest ideas are the best businesses. It's just, and you sit there thinking, why didn't I think of that?
Yeah, it's the most obvious things, isn't it, that always do very, very well. And I know that it's a problem that we have in my house. That sort of, do you go for the super tog or the light tog, or do you have the window open or the heating on and all of that stuff? So very interesting. But also interesting that to go with a very special niche, But what he's found is that it's it's not what he thought people wanted that's happening. It's the partner's duvet that's really taking off. And it's very good that he's been able to recognise that and adapt, and move on and not be sort of rather upset that people don't want what he wants.
Yeah.
And I think that's very important with new businesses as well. That you learn that you're on slightly the wrong track, that you move track. You don't try and beat the heck out of it in order to to sort of flog a dead horse.
Yeah, I think that's key, because I think people do get too stuck on their business ideas, thinking that there's absolutely a market for it, and they'll ask family and friends, and everyone tells them what a fantastic idea it is, but they're ignoring what the marketplace says to them. So absolutely, it's really important that they get it right.
So that was our first clip. You're listening to The Business. We really want to hear your views, so do get in touch with us. The studio number is 01727 839 926, or tweet on @RV The Business. We'd love to hear from you.
So we had Adam Collis with his relatively new business, All Togs Duvet, but now let's hear from a very established business that's recently celebrated its 40th year in business. And for most of that time, they've been specialising in the very top end of audio, Bang & Olufsen visual equipment. But like all good businesses, they have adapted in different ways over the years to continue to be successful. Vicky happened over to Harpenden to find out just how they managed to be so successful over such a long time.
So I'm here at AV82 in Harpenden with Tulsi Parmer. Now, AV82 is an audio-visual shop, but it's been in Harpenden for 40 years.
Yes.
So I'm here to celebrate the birthday of Tulsi Parmer and AV82, but what I'd really like to do is find out what it was like all those years ago, why you set up, and I know that you've made some quite dramatic changes recently. So tell us all about it, Tulsi.
Well, in 1973, the company was formed in Harpenden. We had a two-branch. It was under the name of Studio 99. And it was the first Bang & Olufsen branch opened in Harpenden. The head branch was in Swiss Cottage. And I joined the company in September as an engineer in the company. And after that I kept working, and then in 2 years' time, I was promoted to a manager. And then I ran the company as a manager for a couple of years. And then after that, my director decided to retire. So he offered me the Harpenden branch to buy it. So I thought it was a very good opportunity, and I had a very good experience of selling the products. And during my experience of sales, I made a lot of customers which became like a family, friends.
Yes.
And so I decided to buy the company, and then the company name was changed. Obviously, we could not use the same name under Studio 99. So we changed the name of Studio 82.
Right.
And then the company Studio 82 was formed.
That's because it's 82, the High Street, Harpenden.
That's right. That's the reason we chose that name. And then I ran the company Studio 82, which was a multi-brand. Bang & Olufsen, 80% Bang & Olufsen, and 20% was the mixed brand.
But I mean, most of that is high-end audio-visual.
Everything was high-end audio-visual.
Yeah.
And we were the first company under Studio 99 to have a separate speakers listening room.
Oh, right.
We were the first one. The Studio 99 was the first company who made the listening room as a one pair of speakers listening room.
Oh, so that was a real novelty back in those days.
Exactly. And that gave a more freedom for customer to sit down, relax, and listen to the different components, different speakers, like a room environment. And then.
And I also know that you've recently made some quite dramatic changes just in your 40th year, haven't you?
Yes, we did. We were Bang & Olufsen. From Bang & Olufsen, now we became a multi-brand again.
Why did you do that? Why did you make that change from being single brand to multi-brand?
Well, as the time went on, there were very good time where people were spending a lot of money on televisions and hi-fi, and we could see for the last 3-4 years there had been a downfall on a more exclusive products. And
do you think that's to do with the economy?
The economy. that hit us very badly. And due to that, we said it's going to be very difficult to carry on with expensive products. So we thought if we make a change, we may make it now rather than later. So we thought we'll go back to our own roots, where multi-brand. And by opening a multi-brand within the last 4 months, we have found a huge difference because there's more footfall.
Yes.
Previously, where we were selling Bang & Olufsen, this is, to my experience, where people used to just stand outside the window and they said, oh, it's a very expensive shop, we cannot come in.
Yes.
But since the change, now those people are coming in because they feel they can afford to buy the product, because our product starts from something like £100, goes up to £10,000 within their budget.
Yeah, so you've really moved as the market has moved.
Exactly. I had to move. I had no other choice.
Right. And it's really worked, because you're really getting the footfall. People can see that you've now got a range.
Yeah.
Now, I also noticed that you've done something rather interesting in the way that you display your kits, your equipment, your AV. Because as you walk through the store, you almost get the feeling that you're walking through different rooms of a house.
That's true.
So this is a great idea. I haven't ever seen it done anywhere else, but it's a really interesting marketing approach.
Well, to tell you the truth, this idea came from my daughter, Anne Parmer. She's the one, she said, why don't we make something where we can give them a choice. A living room, bedroom, master bedroom, kitchen area, and then the kids' room, listening room, and so we changed the whole concept. So as people come in, they can see how it's going to look and how it's going to sound.
So it really gives people a sort of inspiration for how that equipment could look in the slot that they're looking
That's
for.
Right.
And it sounds as though by being selective, by really knowing your stuff, having 40 years' experience, do you think this is how you've been able to compete with the discount brokers, the Argos, and all of these places? Tesco's everywhere seems to sell everything these days.
Yeah, that's true. It's a hard work, but the beauty with in my business is everything is under one roof. The moment you select your product, which we help you to select your product and what goes in your room, the installations, the service, everything done by us, because we got our own engineers or installers, own technical people to help you out should you have any problem. It's just one phone call and we are there. And because of this service, which has kept us going so well in Harpenden, and in 1992 I was the first one, during the time of when we were selling Bang & Olufsen, I was the first person to get the Ron Plum Award.
Oh, really?
And that was for the best service to the customer. And this was nominated by the customers.
Oh, goodness. Well, that's a real high accolade.
Yes.
Because you do find a lot of people, I know my next door neighbours spent quite a lot of money on equipment.
Yes.
And I don't think it quite works yet, and that's like 6 months on.
And that's why customers come to it, because the technology is so advanced and so confusing.
Yeah. Sometimes
poor customers, they do not know what they are buying, whether they're going to use those facilities on the products. And this is where we come in, and we tell them, this is what you need. You don't need this, you don't need this. Right. And that they have a trust on you. And because of that, we are doing very well.
So, 40 years on, it sounds as though it's about service. Listening to customers, building trust, and working hard. And a lot of innovation, from audio rooms back in the sort of 70s to imaginative store design today. Something for customers as they change, they're changing, and it's working, and it's really nice to hear of a business that's been going for so long. I went along to their 40th birthday party, and it was jam-packed full of people that just couldn't say enough wonderful things about Tulsi and his team at AV82. So, a very, very, very interesting niche business that's sort of just going with the flow of customers and getting more customers in as a result.
Yeah, I think it's again, the message that came across loud and clear was listening to your customers, constantly taking note of the feedback, moving and changing as the times move and change as well. And then this attention to detail and quality of service. You can never go wrong if you pay attention to quality of service. I think that's key.
Absolutely.
So, lots and lots on the show tonight, and so many people. Shortly, we're going to be joined by Anne Timpany of OnTap Plumbing after this short break.
The Solid Gold Music Show on Radio Verulam is with you on Saturday mornings between 9 a.m. and 1 p.m. Join Derek Staines and Stephen Hall as they flash you back, value discs, have a brief biog and interview the stars. We also allow SJH to ramble down nostalgia lane. It's all on the premier oldies show here on 92.6 FM. The Solid Gold Music Show, sponsored by Dockguard of Luton.
Radio Verulam Community Partners.
People living with cancer or life-threatening illness can often feel isolated, confused and alone. Grove House in Waverley Road, St Albans leads the way in offering free specialist care and support to patients and their families affected by cancer and life-threatening illness in St Albans, Harpenden and Dacorum. To find out more about their services, or how you can become a volunteer, or make a regular donation, or leave a gift in your will, phone 01727 731 000 or visit grove-house.org.uk.
For more on Radio Verulam Community Partners, go to radioverulam.com/community partners.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
Well, you know what I was saying about paying attention to detail before the break? It's really important to make sure that you know exactly what the name of the business you're going to be talking about is and exactly how to pronounce the name of your guest. So, in our studio this evening, we have Anne Timpany of OnTap Plumbers. Welcome, Anne, and sorry about that earlier.
That's all right.
So, now you might think that plumbing isn't a particularly niche area of business, but we happen to know that Anne has tapped, sorry for the pun, Anne, into a very interesting approach to her customers, which is proving really successful. So, Anne, tell us something about OnTap Plumbers and how you got started.
OnTap Plumbers started just over 4 years ago, and it was created by myself and my husband. I used to work in hospitality and knew a little bit about marketing and sales, and my husband's been a plumber for quite some time. I was made redundant, and he wanted to go out on his own, so we thought we'd put both our heads together and try to create something. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So how do you feature in the business?
I do everything but the plumbing.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so I manage the admin, the finances, the sales, the marketing, everything relating to the office and administration.
Right.
Yeah, and he does all the plumbing, managing the plumbers on site,
right,
things like that. Yes.
How many plumbers do you have?
We have 6 at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so in terms of a business model then, are you the face of the business in terms of the customer? If I was to phone up OnTap Plumbers tomorrow, how would I go about working with you guys?
Well, I very much used to be the face of the business, but we've grown, which is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
So it's quite difficult for me to manage everything now. Plus, we also have a 2-year-old, a 3-year-old, and another one coming.
Oh, my word.
So I can't always be there to answer the phone and to talk to people.
Right.
I have an assistant called Margaret.
Yeah.
She answers the phone during normal working hours.
Okay.
And if anyone needs to speak to myself or my husband, then we're always available. But I tend to try to focus now on more strategy with the business than direct contact. Yeah.
So in terms of strategy then, what are we talking about?
Well, what we've actually found is that we are moving a lot more into the commercial plumbing and heating side of things.
Okay.
We've done, when we started out, we did anything and everything. 24/7, we were prepared to go out at 3 a.m. and fix someone's leaky tap.
Right.
But our business has changed a lot in 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
We've been doing schools, so we did the Samuel Ryder Academy here in St Albans when they did a recent development there.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also done Martinswood School in Stevenage.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing some very high-end residential work in central London. So we're actually finding the commercial work great because we have guaranteed work for a long period of time, guaranteed income, and we can so we can manage that.
And how have you managed to land those contracts? Because quite often when you're a small business, it can be really difficult to land local authority contracts and some of the larger organisations.
We have a couple of particularly good clients that have been with us since we started out. So it was more of a personal contact that my husband had.
Right.
So that was how we've landed those, and we've kept those customers throughout the whole 4 years. And as we've grown, they've grown, and they've given us bigger and bigger and bigger work. So
good old networking then.
Good old networking, definitely.
And I know that you're a great networker. You belong to one of the women's networks. Is that right? Or a number of women's networks?
I used to. I used to go along to the FAB networking group in Wheat Hampstead, where I met Vicky, and I do BNI. That's probably the only one that I do regularly now. I've done WIBN, the Athena network, Viva networking. So I've tried lots of different ones out.
And how has it been having to go and represent what's traditionally seen as a male-orientated type organisation in a female environment?
It's been really well received, actually, particularly from the domestic end. Quite often the people that we deal with in, say, St Albans might be mums at home, and they quite like to be able to speak to another woman at the end of the phone. Also because they know that there is a woman answering the phone and managing her husband, that more than likely the plumber will turn up, and he will turn up about the time he's supposed to, and they will get a quote through as a result. So whereas, when there's a one man by himself trying to do everything, things can get lost along the way.
So what's your strategy for the business going forward? You said you've moved from a situation where you reacted to customer needs to a position where you're starting to plan a lot more. You've gone out and you've actually sought larger contracts. What about going forward? Where do you see the business going next?
Well, we're actually focusing a lot more this year on the commercial contracts. So as I said, we've got a couple of clients, but we would like to expand that so we don't have all of our eggs in one basket in case anything happens to those clients. So we're actually trying to gain a contract right now with a very large mechanical engineering firm that dealt with the Olympic Park, and we're at a very close stage to signing a tender with them. So that's what we're moving into, more of that type of thing.
And how much bigger would a contract like that be for you? How many more people would you need, for example?
Well, because we're also taking on a big contract with one of our current clients, which will be double our turnover from last year just in one contract.
Wow.
The additional contract with a new client will be an extra, quite a lot. So we will probably have to expand our team by double it, I'd say. We'll probably need about 12 plumbers to deal with it all.
And how do you manage to ensure you've got the right people on board and that they're going to stick around?
That's really hard part of it all, actually, because in the past we've gone to Gumtree and advertised for plumbers that way. We've only ever had two very successful candidates through the Gumtree, but we've also used word of mouth, speaking to people. One of our other plumbers has recommended another plumber, and he's now working with us. So speaking to other people has helped a lot.
Right. So as you say, the next step is these two larger contracts. Have you thought any further ahead from that, or at the moment is that the key focus, and then sort of almost baby steps moving forward?
Well, we haven't thought too much further than that, because that will probably give us 12 months worth of work. So at the moment we're focusing on winning those contracts, and then once that's over and done with, we've even considered taking on a quantity surveyor to work for us.
Okay.
That will be able to tender for the larger stuff, because it's quite a complicated process, and getting a bit too difficult for my husband to manage that and everything else. So, yeah.
So if you were given a crystal ball and we looked into that ball 10 years hence, what would we see?
In 10 years. Gosh, that's a long way down the track. Do you know what? Me personally, if it was up to me, would probably be in New Zealand. Sitting on a beach somewhere.
You can have the New Zealand division.
Yes, we could. We could. Well, with the Christchurch earthquake, there's now quite a high demand for tradesmen in New Zealand. So,
right.
Yeah, possibly.
Can I just ask a question, Anne? It sounds really fantastic the way that the business has grown so dramatically since we first met, and it sounds as though 2014 is going to be another year of massive growth, which is just fantastic news. Why do you think your company is winning these contracts over and ahead of other people?
Well, with the larger commercial contracts, it's got a lot to do with price, and it's also got a lot to do with who you know. And my husband has a very good way about him that he deals very well with other guys on construction sites, and he's also very good in domestic situations. So that's got a lot to do with why we're probably getting, and also with the clients that we already have, as we deliver excellent workmanship. We're always there when they need us. If something happens, if another guy on site drills through a pipe, we'll be there straight away to fix it. And then all the contracts that we've done for them previously, we've always been there to figure out any issues that have gone on afterwards as a result. So that is probably why good customer service, always being there when they need us.
It is interesting because we talk about service a lot on this this show, and it doesn't matter what business you're in. It seems to be absolutely key and crucial to small contracts, to big contracts. That whole trust element.
Absolutely, that's right.
And is there anything you would do differently if you were starting again?
No, actually. I actually, the one thing I would have done is start earlier.
Oh, well, that's confidence for you, isn't it?
Well, no, because you always think when you've got a job working for somebody else that you've got security. However, I think you've got more security working for yourself because you are in complete control of your destiny.
Absolutely.
So should have done it earlier.
And it looks as though there's an exciting future to continue for OnTap Plumbers. Well, thank you so much, Anne, for sharing your story and your tips for successful business. And I hope you're going to stay with us to join in with some of the other discussion around niche businesses.
Yes.
And I think we're going to go to a little break.
Wondering what you could do this weekend? Well, you don't have to go far from home. There's plenty to discover on your doorstep. Join me, Ellie O'Fera, this Friday at midday when we'll be giving you some great ways to get out and about close to home. That's Out and About, Friday at midday, here on 92.6 FM, Radio Verulam.
If you want to get in touch with the business on Radio Verulam, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.
So, great news for Anne and her OnTap Plumbers. It's great to hear businesses growing so quickly in this difficult market. So that's a bit more information about another set of niche businesses. We've heard about Alan Collis creating a new niche business where he believed he'd found a hole in the market. We've heard from Tulsi Parmer, who started as a very specialist supplier of AV equipment to AV82, but he listened to the market and his customers and has moved with the times, but always concentrating on the specialism of all-round supply and service. And our final clip this evening is from an interview I did with Melissa Kirby of 2x2 Holidays, who specialise in holidays to Southern and East Africa. Now, Clare Farley, the MD of the business, is actually South African, so it's no surprise that they specialised originally in this area of the world that she knows so well. But what's interesting about this business is that her customers are so loyal that she needed to find new offerings and has decided to add new destinations to her repertoire. Melissa, tell us all about 2x2 Holidays and what you specialise in.
We are a safari specialist company specialising in Southern and East Africa, and we really do everything from self-driving right the way through to private tours.
And what particularly would make a client come to you rather than go to one of the big tour operators, the Thompsons or those types of operators?
I think the main thing where we're different from most companies is we've all travelled Africa extensively, and we take time to get to know each individual lodge and really do know the destinations that we sell.
And that's what customers are looking for. They're looking for that personalised service?
Yes, definitely. I think every customer is different, and therefore you can't just put together a package that will suit everybody. So that's why we tailor-make our itineraries specifically for that customer's needs.
That sounds as though it's going to be very expensive.
No, not at all. There is a misconception that those tailor-made holidays can be expensive. But the great thing about our rates is that we do specifically source specialised rates to make sure we get our customers the best price. Plus we have lots of little hidden gems that we use throughout Africa.
So the sorts of holidays that you're putting together, they're not the sort of things that you could do yourself?
People do stuff online themselves, and a lot of our customers do have an idea of what they're after before they come to us, but they don't know how to go about doing it. Plus, by going through us, we've negotiated the rates in advance, and therefore they're getting the best deal possible, plus the local knowledge.
So customers come back time and time again from the sounds of it?
Yes, we're very proud of our repeat customer base. Some customers have been with us 5-6 times, and obviously Africa has a lot to offer, but there are other places in the world, and that's why we're now branching out into India and Sri Lanka.
How are you going to establish the same sort of specialism in India and Sri Lanka as you have with Africa?
I think the most important thing is us going out there and exploring the country ourselves, and that way when customers ask us a question about a certain destination or where they should go, we'll know firsthand where to send them.
And it's a big country, India, isn't it? There's a lot of different opportunities there.
There's masses of opportunities, everything from cultural experiences and also some fantastic safaris as well, which is why it goes perfectly with those who have been to Africa before.
So it sounds as though the niche that you're talking about, even though you're expanding it now, is very much about interest in culture, interest in wildlife, and interested in the indigenous population of the countries, and those are the sort of specialities that you're looking at in a country.
Yes, I mean, we love safaris, and having all been on safaris ourselves, that's our main interest. Obviously every country has something else to offer, but we'll be predominantly focusing on safari holidays.
And 2x2 Holidays, you're based in Harpenden, but you're predominantly a web-based business.
Yes, we are. We do have a few local customers who've known about us, but predominantly we're on the internet.
And so your clients come from everywhere?
All over the world, actually.
All over the world?
All over the world. We've had some customers from Madagascar, Spain, America, sort of even Japan, actually, but all over the world. That's the great thing about being an internet company. Everybody can come to us.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Melissa, for telling us about 2x2 Holidays.
It's my pleasure.
If there are people out in West Herts or anywhere else in the world that are listening to Radio Verulam and want to go on a specialist safari holiday, how do they get in touch with you?
There's a few different ways. They can either give us a call on 01582 766 122, or even just drop us an email, and then we can look through their requirements and then contact them for more information.
And the website address is?
The website address is www.2by2holidays.co.uk.
Well, a brave move in what we've said is quite a difficult climate, so luxury holidays and bespoke, but very busy.
Yes, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because the holiday market has changed quite dramatically over the last sort of 15 to 20 years, with the traditional high street travel agent really losing out to the web and to people searching for holidays themselves. But it's very interesting once again to see a niche business, specialist business, people that really know their stuff coming through and coming good, in a difficult climate. So once again, if you're providing excellent service, if you're providing something that's special and that's niche, then you can come through. What did you think of that, Anne?
Oh yes, I've known Clare for a couple of years that runs 2x2 Holidays, and she really knows her stuff. She used to tell us about some fantastic safaris that she could send her customers on, and I think as well she's quite niche in doing particularly holidays about safaris, and I think that targeting a market is definitely the way to go, rather than just trying to do anything and everything. Yeah.
If you look at some of the best holiday companies at the moment, they really do specialise. And, I know a couple of people that specialise in cruises, but high-end cruises. You've got people on adventure holidays, holidays for children with the adventure bit tagged on as well. Yes. So, it's interesting to see how that we are, as consumers, much more predisposed to want to go and buy something that's tailored to us. I don't know whether we're more conscious of how we spend our money as well as the additional element of customer service.
Yes, it is interesting, isn't it? I think, Adam mentioned that his business, is really geared up to having the right sort of buzzwords and keywords, and in his business it was partnership duvets. And, in this business, if you've got riding holidays to Botswana, which I know 2x2 holidays do have, or you've got a wheelchair safari to see Indian elephants, then it's very much easier to get that message out through your website to that very, very broad audience, which is the world. So I think it's really, really interesting stuff. And it's been fascinating to hear about these different types of businesses that are all moving in slightly different directions. Some, like yourselves, expanding but going specifically for more commercial businesses. All Togs Duvet, very, very specialist, really, really doing very nicely. And Tulsi Parmer with AV82, moving his business so that it's gone from being very, very specific to being more generalist again after all these years. There's so many businesses out there that are all moving in different directions and all being very successful. It's very satisfying to hear. And we do like positive stories on Radio Verulam, don't we?
Very satisfying, very positive.
So, what else do we think we've learnt from the show this evening? Have we got any other sort of brilliant ideas or brilliant thoughts as a result of hearing about these businesses? What's your sort of take on it, Anne? It's the first time you've been on the show.
Yes, it is, and I was a little bit late. Sorry about that.
You nearly gave us a heart attack.
I nearly gave myself one and the baby. As you say, it's very positive to see local businesses doing really well in the current climate, and I can see that things are picking up again, which is fantastic. And I'm always happy to support local businesses, and I would prefer to be able to support local businesses. And it's great if the greater community can do that as well. I find social media can be very effective when it comes to growing your business and getting your message out there, but you also need to be quite careful with social media as well. So that's what I've found.
It's interesting you say you've got to be careful with social media, and I completely agree. But why do you think that you've got to be careful? What's your experience? Sounds as though you might have had a bad experience.
Oh no, I've just there's some Facebook pages and things like that out there, and I think sometimes they open up the channels for anyone and everyone to speak their mind when perhaps they shouldn't always speak their mind, if you know what I mean. And also sometimes in some situations, it hasn't happened to us, but sometimes people assume because you're a smaller local business, therefore you can be a lot more flexible. But if you want to be a bigger, greater business one day, then you do need to be you need to have a business mind, and you need to be professional about what you do, I think. Yeah.
Getting that balance right is always quite difficult. I see, you mentioned sort of Facebook and people becoming almost like a little too familiar. I think one of the mistakes of very small businesses is they sort of open up their almost their private lives to their customers. And one of the first things that I would sort of say to my customers is that just don't let the two meet, or make sure that in your personal life you're not talking about going down to the pub and drinking too much, when the next minute you're going to be walking into a business environment and you're going to be pitching for a piece of business and wanting people to take you seriously. It's a very, very delicate balance.
Absolutely.
And you can come across, but it can be incredibly useful. There's no doubt about the fact we've talked to lots of businesses on the show that are finding it incredibly valuable. And I think all of us, all of the presenters of the business show have actually got business
from
from
Twitter or from LinkedIn is another good source.
Yes. I think you just have to be sure that you know what you're doing when it comes to using social media, and what you definitely also don't want is lots of inane chat, people just putting anything that comes to mind on their Twitter feed, and as you say, Vicky, forgetting that actually that's their business's Twitter feed, so maybe setting up a separate one if you want to have personal chat, and knowing the difference between the two. I think, for me, in terms of what I've learnt this evening, is yet again we've showcased some really successful businesses, including yours, Anne, that are very locally based, which is always fantastic. I don't know if you know, one of our previous guests, Derianne Tad, is tonight one of the key speakers at Pure Fashion, which is one of the shows that begins that lead up to London Fashion Week, which is amazing. So, we've got business people from the locality taking on an international stage and a national as well as a local stage, which is really exciting.
It is. It's fantastic news, and let's hope that 2014 is the year that all of these businesses, big and small, start getting that full sort of confidence back to start growing as you are. With increasing staffing levels, going for slightly different contracts, and really, I suppose, making a difference to. If you're employing people, then you're making a difference to the workplace, making a difference to UK PLC, which has got to be good for everybody. And if people are working, they're earning more money. If they're earning more money, they're going to be spending with other small businesses around and about. Yeah. So it's a sort of virtuous circle that starts to build up in the same way that the negative one goes the other direction.
And in saying taking on extra staff, we've taken on a couple of apprentices, and they've been great, and they're still with us now. One boy's from Redbourne, and he's developed along with us, and now he's gas safe registered, and he's working. He's gaining more and more responsibility now. Yeah. And we have another apprentice from London. So that's really positive, being able to give business and employment back to the younger generations.
So are you actually training those guys?
Yeah, well, on the job training.
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah. They've got their college degrees.
Oh, okay. So they get an actual qualification as well as the on the job training.
Yeah, but an apprenticeship is an essential part of becoming a plumber if you want to be fully qualified. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Oh, that's absolutely brilliant. And to get one guy that's local and one guy from London, that's really useful too. How did you come by those people?
Actually, both of them. One of them was from Gumtree, the London one, and the other one, I think he got in touch with us somehow. I think he just found us on the internet and sent us an email.
Yeah, fantastic.
Oh, brilliant. Well, we've come to the end of the show, or we're coming towards the end of the show. Once again, it's been fantastic. Thanks ever so much to Anne from OnTap Plumbers.
Thank you for having me.
It's going to be good night from me, Victoria Scott, and
from me, Roma Bhowmick. See you soon.
You've been listening to The Business on Radio Verulam. If there's anything in the show you want to talk to us about, phone us on 01727 839 926 or email thebusiness@radioverulam.com.